Perry Farrell, welcome to Q.
Thanks, man. It's called Q.
That's right. How's it going?
Why?
Question.
Oh.
Q&A. So how are you? I tell you what I like about this. I rarely want to talk about the title of anything because I find it can be a little bit lazy. But I like Kind Heaven.
Yeah, it's a great title.
Because isn't the story was somewhere you were at an antique store or something like that and you saw that phrase?
No.
Where was it?
Okay. So I was reading, I believe his first name is James McCullough, 1776, the American Revolution. And one of Washington's soldiers, George Washington, the father of our country, was a general at that time.
Yeah.
One of the soldiers was writing a letter to his sweetheart, and it was a bloody war against the British. And he wrote to her, "I do not know if I'll ever come home, but if not, we will see each other again in kind heaven."
In Kind Heaven. I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I love that sort of, one of my favorite things is, this land is your land.
It's one of the greatest protest songs ever written.
It's based on an old song by the Carter family called Little Darlin' Pal of Mine. And
Really?
Yeah, and I love that in the old days, your pal was your partner. I love any of those kind of antiquated old affection things like Kind Heaven.
Yes.
Like pal.
I like reading like turn of the century poetry. Even letters, the way they spoke was just eloquent, beautiful, rich, I like
Civil War
slang.
poetry too. I read a lot of like letters back home because when I read that, I took great meaning from it because I find myself reading old poetry and old songs from the Civil War, like love songs or love poetry back to the people back home, and there's something so unadorned and you get something so really poetic about it.
Yeah, the way they spoke to each other. No wonder now you like to sing the 1700 folk songs.
Yeah, I know.
So you'd find beauty in that. I have a song that I wrote, Thievery Corporation, right?
Yeah.
So we co-wrote a track called Revolution Solution. And I wrote it right after reading yet another, it was either a poem or something from the 1800s. And so this is how the lyrics are. "I hope for comfort, but I've never felt too safe. And in this hard life I have had to navigate through, unexhausted is my virtue."
That's.
Unexhausted is my virtue.
I would have never thought of you as an old someone who's likes old-fashioned things because I see you maybe as sort of on a cutting edge of things all the time.
Well, I appreciate that, but no, I love to study the past, and specifically poetry because I'm a poet. So I look for that genius through the ages. That excites me. You read Rumi. I don't even know what century he lived in, but he was a fellow who lived, I think, in the Persian regions. Maybe 1400 or 10, had to be past the 10th century. And he might have been gay. And so it's really exciting to read a man living back then who was really in love with nature and life and might have been a homosexual. But his slant on the world was amazing.
I guess I shouldn't be surprised by anything because I feel like you do a lot of different things all the time. Like whenever I think you're putting out a record, you're also doing this and you're also doing that. You're doing something in Vegas now, is that right?
Yes.
What's that about?
So what I'm working on today is a project. It's an art project. As all of my art projects, they're based in music, but they have you could say a mythology based around it. And in this case, it's we're talking about the story of the second coming of the Messiah, the second Messianic era. And we're crossing let's make believe. It is right around now, and we're crossing the threshold of it. Because what I found interesting as I was I study mysticism, and I study comparative religions, and the topic or the subject of the second coming of the Messiah really interested me. There was a rabbi called the Lubavitcher rabbi who died in around 1993, and he, the Hasidic community was claiming that he was the Messiah. He never said he was the Messiah, but this has happened throughout history in the Hasidic communities. In the 12th century, there was talk of the Messiah was returning back then. So there's always been talk of it. Isaiah was the prophet who said there will be a Messiah coming. So I started to think, what if the Messiah came now? The Hasidics were saying 1993. It was the Lubavitcher Rebbe. He was a really, 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 really smart rabbi. But if it was him, or if it wasn't him, and if the Messiah is going to be here, let's say in 10 years, he's going to deal with the CIA, the FBI, Russia, America, Saudi Arabia, the world today, the internet. So I started to write this story out as if it were happening right now. Who would be the Antichrist? What would Armageddon be? Would Armageddon be a fight between two different countries? Would it be a nuclear holocaust? Would it be a cyber war? Would it be the war between the sexes? Would it be a war that is up in your head? Would it be a war between you and yourself?
So what would it look like? What would it look at these things?
I'm kind of laughing to myself, thinking, right now, if the Messiah were to be alive, he would be spied on because of the surveillance and that is going on around the world. I mean, every time you turn on your computer or your handheld, probably you're being recorded.
Yeah. I mean, I got one of those things in my kitchen that I speak to when it tells me the weather and something like that. And I've just kind of had to accept that that's probably listening to me all the time.
So would the Messiah be a friend of the people, or would he be perceived as to be an enemy of the state?
Right.
So that's, but at the same time, forget about what's going on in mankind. What about the spiritual realms? What would be going on then? Because what's supposed to happen is heaven is supposed to come down, descend, and live. God is supposed to live with us again, as he did back in the days of Moses, Moses' era, when he was helping the people and doing miracles. We're supposed to see now signs and wonders. And I'm spotting signs and wonders. As an example, this show is a wonder. You and I are speaking, but it's being broadcast out to the entire world and recorded so we can look at it later if we'd like. This to me is a wonder. The fact that I was able to come from Detroit on this mechanical, on a steel horse I ride.
You can travel great distances.
You can travel great distances.
Yeah, in short amounts of time. That's a wonder. I understand.
And it's getting faster and faster and faster.
Yeah. So
I'm seeing the wonders. I'm seeing the signs. I'm seeing potentials of Messianic era.
I remember reading recently that, I don't know, I shouldn't get too far into this because I want to talk about your record and I want to talk about kind of everything. But I've been kind of enjoying this thing I'm reading right now, which is the idea that I grew up Christian, I grew up Catholic, and that the idea of heaven, going somewhere to go to heaven is incorrect. This is the thing I've been reading, that the idea of heaven is in the next generation.
Where are you reading this?
Rob Bell and Joseph Campbell.
So this guy, Rob Bell, is changing your mind.
I read, someone gave me Love Wins. And I read this book.
I like that.
I've been enjoying it because it's the idea that heaven is the life.
Title's good, man.
The heaven is the life that we leave for others. It's not a place that we go, but heaven is the contentment that we have left the world a better place for other people. So
I would riff on that.
All these altruistic things we're supposed to be doing is not to get somewhere. It's to create heaven on earth in the future. You can get down with that.
I like it.
I know.
Yeah, we could riff on that.
Yeah, we could. But listen, I have some questions for you about music and about the whole thing, right?
Okay.
Because I see you as sort of, I know I'm waving a pencil.
Yeah, you're waving
here.
a pencil at me.
But I'll do the rubber side up.
Okay.
All right. I see you as sort of like a forebearer of what's expected of musicians. And you may not see yourself that way. But, a lot of musicians I talk to right now, they say, I have to do so much. It's not enough for me to just make a record anymore.
Right.
I make a record. I need to put off a festival. I need to, I need to do all these things. It feels like early on, you kind of saw that coming, or your career has become a sort of a model for what musicians need to do right now. You were in a band, you were in other groups, you had art projects, you had Lollapalooza,
Right. I still have art projects.
Yeah.
And I still have Lollapalooza.
But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I guess what you're trying to say, but I'm going to paraphrase right back to you, is the way I conduct my career is a good model. So I would be a good model or mentor for any person looking to get into music or entertainment. Mm-hmm. I'll buy that.
Yeah. I think it's even more that it always has been. At a time where what you were doing seemed different than what everyone else was doing. Now it's the norm.
Well, we all need to react. What an artist does is he reflects life. So this is really just a reflection of us all. This is a reflection of our life. We have this beautiful apparatus that is the handheld cell phone. We have telephony, we have the computer, and this is how we now spread our message. That's our route of distribution for the music. But we can't stop there, because I want to see, I listen to my music on YouTube mostly, because I want to see them. And if I can't see them, I want to see an artful video that is also representative of the message that the musicians were trying to set out. So we need to form teams. It's like that's what's going on. You need to create a good team, team of artists, intellects, musicians, video visionaries, managers that can get you around. And we come in force, and we travel and tour the world, and we can get there because of these great airplanes and cars and trains, helicopters and everything else. And we come to your town and entertain you. That's what it is. It's not, you're probably not going to get a jet like Led Zeppelin. Those are different days, and you're not going to sell 50 million copies of something.
Yeah.
But I guarantee you at least 50 million people have a potential to listen to it now. And it might be, things are being set up differently. And you have to watch it and utilize the best of it.
Where do you think that comes from you in general? At the beginning, this sort of P.T. Barnum-esque part of you too. There's always been sort of, because I'm thinking about this Vegas show you're doing, I'm thinking about this record, I'm thinking about Lollapalooza. Where do you think that comes from?
Maybe, I'll tell you, if you want to use the word from, where I'm from, my family comes from this place that no longer exists. It's called Glitziana. It was next door to Transylvania. But the term glitz and glamour came out of Glitziana. And so apparently, this town, my family, my true last name is Berenstecher, which means a kind entertainer.
Oh, really?
A kind, handsome entertainer.
It's predisposed for you.
Look it up. I'm sorry. I'm not boasting.
I know.
I recently had to looked it up because I turned around a picture of my grandfather, and it said Moses Berenstecher. So I looked up Berenstecher to see what it was, and it said a kind, handsome entertainer. So my family have apparently entertained people because that's where last names all come from.
Mm-hmm. And you see yourself as the role of an entertainer as sort of a very sacred one, more than just making a record, more than just touring. It's a greater responsibility to entertain.
Yes, it's you should be leading rituals. You should be leading the greatest times, or not leading, but you should be making sure that the greatest times in life, those rituals, those moments, marriages, bar mitzvahs, baptisms, all those things, they all need music and they need celebration. So they need the people that know how to celebrate, the professionals that know how to celebrate. We should be there to help your occasion go off better.
We've been talking about some of the more kind of fun things and exciting things around this Kind Heaven project. But
can I pause for a moment?
Yeah, of course.
So we do have nightclubs, and those things are wonderful and they're great. But today in the world that we're living in, people have private functions. They want to celebrate, or they want to bring together their, it might be their office or their friends or their college. So there's always reasons to have music. And so, you've got DJs, you can do it that way. You can bring in, entertainment is so varied today. I even like magicians, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Comedians, and just people. We all work way harder today. Like whoever said that, like, oh yeah, we got to do so much more today. Yeah. We sure do. I mean, I would have liked to have taken a break. My voice is a little tired, as you can tell.
Are you feeling a little run down?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
But I know I made a conscious decision that I would come out on the road, and in the mornings, if I have to, speak with people,
Yeah.
But I have to limit it. I'll talk to one good person, please, because after that, I'm gargling and popping vitamins. I'm taking care of myself.
Well, I appreciate that you're here. Then can we play that clip in 6 just right now?
Yeah, and that's what every musician's gonna have to do, man.
Yeah.
If they want to really do it, they do it right. They can't sit back, record a record. I mean, they could, and that's nice, but people need a good occasion to get out and get together in a social environment. And music, partying, a good party, you're going to be required to come out and prove. I don't say the word prove, but in my mind, I do, because I'm kind of cocky that way. But it's not exactly prove, but you need to get out and travel around the world. The world needs help. The world needs to relax, and we're hiring you to help us relax and celebrate.
But in addition to relaxing and celebrating, can we play the clip?
Shoot you up now with a wing. Got you on a double thing. I crush your job, I raise your rent. 'Cause I'm your so-called president.
If you're just tuning in, my name is Tom Power. You're listening to Q. I'm speaking with the one and only Perry Farrell, frontman of Jane's Addiction, the force behind the Lollapalooza Festival, about his latest album, Kind Heaven. Right now you're hearing the lead singer from that record, Pirate Punk Politician. Perry, I mean, everyone has perspective on the President of the United States right now. I'm wondering what perspective you were trying to bring in that song.
Well, so as I explained to you, I'm writing a story. It's like a mythology.
About the Messiah.
Yes.
What would the Messiah's experience be like if he came back to Earth? If they came back to Earth?
Yes.
And
But even
what would,
more
what would
than
our
that-
interpretation be of him?
And even more than that, that's an important aspect. But what I key into is what would we all be experiencing? That's really more important because the Messiah is one person. But what's more important than the Messiah is the world. You know, what's going to happen to us? What's going to happen to the world? So I used, like all artists do, I'm using the reflections of the world as I see it today. And I saw somebody who I thought would make a great Antichrist.
The President, Donald Trump.
I didn't say Donald Trump, you did.
Is it?
I'm telling you, I'm making this up.
Okay.
So I'm using...
That's what I took from it anyway.
Okay. Well, that's okay. That's fair.
Cool.
With a wink. So I'm making art. And I think that I see somebody that would make a great Antichrist.
Yeah. But art can do a lot. I mean, I talked about This Land Is Your Land earlier, Perry, and you said it's one of the great protest songs.
It is. Tom Morello and I, when we do our, charitable gig, we go out, sometimes we go out on the road, Axis of Justice, and we go to, we sing, support unions and people that have been devastated by natural disasters.
What's the role of the artist in those things? What's the role in the artist in speaking out about things or trying to change things that you see problems in the world?
Well, we are great messengers. And we have great platforms today to spread the message. We're doing it right now. Radio, got a great bandwidth. But I think there's nothing better. This is why I'm going into these small venues initially, so I can see people eye to eye and soul to soul. You can see me, you know who I am, and you can see exactly what I'm about. There's no photo retouching, and it's like a sporting event. This is life or death right here. And that's the way, if you really want to spread the message, and you've got to do it the oldest way, and that is reach out and touch people and look in their eyes and let them know you.
I was reading a biography of Pete Seeger recently, and I think one thing that we don't talk about enough when we talk about Pete Seeger was, in addition to doing the concerts, in addition to doing, got blacklisted from television, but trying to get on television, he'd show up at marches, he'd show up at picket lines, he'd sing at these things.
That's right.
That grassroots, getting on the floor, looking at people in the eye, is something that songwriters and artists can do, but we don't necessarily see a lot of it as much anymore.
Can I tell you something that's will blow your mind?
Yeah, please do.
So Pete Seeger, not Pete Seeger, but Woody Guthrie, back to Woody Guthrie in This Land Is Your Land.
Mm-hmm.
So, as I tell you, Tom and I, Tom was the one, he writes out, like, here, you're going to do this verse, you're going to do this verse. So, just for fun, because I was, Talib Kweli's got a new show, and I wanted to, he said to me, he wrote out some questions he was going to ask. One of them was the greatest protest songs of all time. And I went, at the top of the list, This Land Is Your Land. I went online to watch Woody Guthrie sing it. They had it. So I'm watching it. It's 5 minutes long, thereabout, or might be three something, 4 minutes long. All of a sudden, the sound goes out, but he keeps singing. So just like the American national anthem, where there's certain verses were removed. Mm-hmm. Yeah, YouTube's got Woody Guthrie, and they censored his last, like a minute of his This Land Is Your Land.
Yeah, it's nobody living can ever stop me. It's
It's the one where he goes to the places that are like, welfare.
Yeah.
And sing, like, I can't believe there's buildings like this. And I walked up to my brothers. They had no money.
Yeah. They were
cut
comfortable with
him
the
out.
song until it became about wealth.
Yep.
Until it became about
Yep.
ownership, you know?
Yep.
They were excited about the song when it was about, oh, we're all in this together, but they weren't excited when
He said, hey, you know what? You're not really for me. You're for yourself. Then they cut the lights.
But I want to talk a little bit about how that has changed for you over the years. Can we play another clip? Just
Wait,
because-
I just
No,
want
no,
to
please.
repeat that.
Yeah.
You're not really for me. You're for yourself. So don't kid yourself.
Who's saying that?
I'm saying that to the Antichrist.
Right. Play this for me.
Follows the colors in my eye. She stays calm.
You recognize that?
Yeah,
What is it?
Psycom. That was my first group.
Ziola, Psycom. Yeah.
Yeah, so we just came from Detroit. Darling Ziola, she was from Detroit and moved out to Los Angeles where I met her. There's a really interesting story there. So I fell in love with this girl. She's passed. She died maybe 25 years ago or
sorry.
something like that. When I just started getting going with Jane's Addiction. And she was the first girl I'd gotten high with and on heroin. And I was the first guy that she got high. Like, she basically asked me if I could get her heroin, and I said, yeah. And we did it together. This is really a wild story. So years later, after she'd passed, I found out from my cousin that she was my cousin.
What?
And yeah,
So you were in a relationship with this person, and you were.
I didn't know that she was my cousin. And so the people, and my cousin's in Detroit,
Yeah.
where she was from.
How did you feel then?
I mean, how would you feel?
I don't know.
Just how I felt.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, but I guess like also like a mixture of
It was a mixture.
shame, grief, loss. You know.
I wasn't so ashamed
Yeah.
because we had a really great love,
Yeah.
and I didn't know.
Back to that song, or back to that time in your life. Like it feels like I saw a sign at the Women's March that really stuck with me, and it said, "I can't believe I still have to protest this." And I felt like it was saying something that we've been talking about this for so long. Nothing seems to be getting better. And I think about
No, it is.
I think about in the 80s, it was the Reagan era. You had the
Yeah.
Cold War, the AIDS crisis. I
Yeah.
mean, you were responding to that moment then, not dissimilarly to the way you're responding to this moment now. Does it feel different?
Well, as far as pure feeling, it feels more critical. It absolutely feels like this is no time to keep your mouth shut. This is a time when we've got to express ourselves. The artists need to express themselves and not hold back, because we are all, there's this universal hard drive that contains all of our collective emotions and feelings, and we're all. And then today we have this beautiful thing, the internet, where we can reach out and quickly say, "This is going on, and this is how I feel, and this is a good thing." So I think that the silence, no. Be silent when you're down by a creek and you have a picnic basket near you so you can hear the crickets. But, with all this going on, this insanity where these rich men are trying to just organize and swipe the world away from us, is not the time to be silent.
Do you feel different as an artist now than you did back then? Do you feel like the art you're making is different?
I feel that I'm wiser. So I feel like my focus on what needs to happen is better, and I feel I'm more organized. I've got a better sense on how to actually succeed with, I might have something I need to express and something that needs change, and I feel I'm better equipped to change it now.
How are you with regret? I mean, you were telling me stories about just then about, doing heroin, and this is something you've been really candid about in your drugs in the past. I know also we've been talking about this too, that you've made spirituality, I mean, this is a weird way of putting it, but spirituality is sort of a hallmark of your life. Does it make you look back negatively at your past?
No.
Would you change things?
Well, I'd change probably over 1 million things.
Yeah.
I would change yesterday a little bit. The day before, it doesn't go perfect, but this is the lesson. And this I learned from a really, really wise man. Nobody's perfect.
I thought that was going to be longer than it was, Perry.
No, it's really, but let that sink in, and you can use that every day. Just when, like, oh my God, just say to yourself, nobody's perfect. It's not a perfect world. It's imperfect. And it's imperfect, but that gives us a chance to roll up our sleeves and refine it. Mm. And that's the balance of the universe. It's a good thing. It's nice.
Generations of rock musicians, I mean, you just turned 60, right, recently?
Yes.
There's generations of rock musicians that are getting older, and I think about, what it meant for a certain generation to see Bob Dylan and Paul McCartney, get a little bit older, what it might mean for a certain generation to see you get older. How are you navigating your role as an artist as you go into the next phase of your life?
Well, like I say, I'm gargling now, and I take vitamins, and I really enjoy life. Anytime I think to complain, like, oh man, my toe is so sore, like I might have turf toe from dancing. I'm thinking to myself, I just tell myself, that one side of myself, shut the fuck up. Mm-hmm. Honest truth is, look, you're in Toronto today, and Toronto is such a killer place. You're living it up, man. So I don't know if I answered your question.
No, you did. I think I understand what you mean. There's a practicality to it.
Yeah, and I'm happy. Like I say, I think these days, if I were to make believe that we all reincarnate, and then we all, everybody that's listening, we reincarnated right around 2020 to be around for 2020. Mm-hmm. I think it's a fine time to be alive.
You think good things are going to happen?
I think it's going to be exciting as can be. Yeah. And I like to use sports analogies a lot for some reason. I guess because sports and entertainment are so intertwined. There's so many, there's so many comparisons you can make. And like a good sporting event, you want it to be thrilling, and you don't want one side to blow the other out. Mm. That would be like if the bad guys won real big time, that would really suck. But it would kind of suck to witness something where the good guys were just blowing out the bad guys.
You want it to be a little bit tight.
You want it to be tight.
You know what? I end a lot of interviews with artists asking, like, hey, why don't you lie on a beach? And you've done some really great work. Why don't you take it easy? I feel no impulse to ask you that question because I just see art. I see art coming out of you whether you like it or not.
Yeah, I love the beach though.
But you know what I mean? I see art coming out of you whether you're sleeping or not.
Yeah, it's fun for me. It's as fun as going to the beach. But I love nature. I love going surfing. I love going snowboarding. Mm. I love going hiking. I like bike riding. Mm-hmm. I love vacation, all that. So what I try to do is I try to do this admixture where I have Lollapaloozas around the world,
Yeah.
and then right after that, I'll go on a boat and I'll go to the Galapagos Islands.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard
So
that. I
that's
heard
how
that
I do it.
You took your kid to the Galapagos Islands, right?
I took my family and my friends.
I should go. I've never been.
Well, let's become better friends, and we can
Maybe
plan something.
maybe I can
man.
make it out.
Yeah, maybe you can tell me about some place like you think, hey, well, we should go here, man, and you know, we plan it.
Yeah.
It might take 3 years or 5 years, and that's how I do it. We plan. Let's work on it. Let's find the best places to stay.
Yeah.
What she would wear.
Yeah.
You know.
I got one more question for you before, and you've been
All right.
really great, and you've been here for
Thank
a long
you.
time, and I appreciate it. But like, I was just thinking about this, that like a lot of people came in today because they were such big fans of Jane's, right? Out into the studio, they came in, they were excited that you were here because they were big fans of the Jane's Addiction records, big fans of Porno for Pyros, big fans of you.
Thank
Like,
you.
How comfortable are you with that? With people really, you know, loving that era of your life, which to some people is such a generation-defining time, but for you was a few years.
Yeah. Well, it would be like someone saying, I love you. You can't get enough of that. That's how it is.
Yeah.
Just simply like that.
You just feel that love coming in.
When someone says, I love you, and they really mean it, you can't get enough of that.
Perry, thanks for coming
Yeah,
in.
thank you.